Heyo, my name's Daly. I'm 34 years old and I am a trans feminine identified person. I am here to share my story, thoughts, opinions, revelations on transgender topics as well as other things that aren't quite related, but as well as kind of share my story, my experiences. Um, both before and into this process. Hopefully, this reaches somebody who's either questioning their own process or just trying to maybe understand for their own or somebody else why we would go into this experience. In hopes, that maybe bring about a little more compassion for the trans community across the board. Uh, yeah, so we'll get into it. Kind of start with my origin story a little bit. Let's rewind back to 2017. It's kind of when I initially came across the term of non-binary, and had reached a point in my life where I was beginning to explore and accept a reality of an expanding sexuality and kind of a realization that like gender roles and things didn't quite fit with me in terms of traditionalism. Coming out of a really toxic marriage and just yeah, not a great time in my life, but transformative. So yeah, end of 2017, I came out to a handful of individuals as non-binary. I did not do a whole lot with it. I didn't really worry too much about pronouns, kind of more of a non-conforming approach where I just didn't care. I no longer cared about gender roles or the ideals, in terms of representing masculinity or femininity and just any of that. I felt like it was kind of a sham of something to further box us in and separate us from each other. Still feel that way, but so fast forward a little bit into 2022. For about a year prior to that, I had begun exploring different gender expressions, mostly just lingerie, but girls gotta start somewhere, so. And just, kind of feeling that out. I hadn't quite gotten to the place of admitting to myself that I was trans feminine yet. And so by the point that I did actually come out last year, I had done a lot of research and come to a very full understanding that I was trans feminine and that I was definitely ready to start the process of transitioning medically, to what degree that I'd feel comfortable with. Kind of a slow process and just kind of staying open minded. Certainly trying to learn as much along the way and share what I can with it. So yeah, I came out last year in December 2022 to my partner of like 4 years. At the time, this person was the first person who really gave me the space to feel safe in expressing these things. I didn't feel judged for the most part. it certainly, raised some questions about things, and I didn't really even fully have an answer for them then. But that's kind of part of what this process is about. Hopefully, to look back on and just kind of see how far I've come, and also for the rest of you to kind of see where you can go. So yeah, I basically started that process. I watched a lot of videos, both people sharing their personal stories, as well as like clinical videos and articles, anything and everything in between, to just like understand more. Not only understand where I was at with my journey and really answering like questions of like, am I or aren't I? I think one of the best resources for me, maybe some other people will identify and resonate with this person too. Just a really grateful shout out to Ashley Adamson. Their videos resonated really deeply with me. I feel like most of the videos I came across were just like really young people starting this a lot earlier on in life, some like right as or before they even hit puberty. And so for me, I'm like, I'm 34 years old. I'm starting this so much later. Like, I want to hear this from someone closer to my age, somebody who has actually experienced masculinity and some of the things that go with that. That also identified cis het for the longest time. It's like mostly out of fear, but still. Yeah, just really great person, really great videos. They really helped me frame the questions I needed to ask myself to really get to where I am now. So thank you. I guess we'll get a little bit into like HRT and just kind of like my journey a little bit with it. I started in the end of January of this year, 2023. Basically low and slow. I viewed this process with a mindset that my body is a temple, and very much temples are allowed to be redecorated and reinvented, but do so kindly and carefully. So, because it is a temple, it's sacred. So that's kind of just the mindset I adopted. I started with I didn't start with a traditional blocker. Most people usually take Spiro. And for me, the list of side effects for that one kind of seemed really unattractive in the beginning. So I wasn't ready for that. I started with 2 milligrams of estradiol tablet form. Just really inexpensive, simple, and wanted to give my body the chance to just experience what it felt like at any level of introduction. So it was not the lowest, but certainly one of the lower doses. I kind of titrated in every couple of weeks to a month later as far as like the next round of dosing, kind of following forth. Some of the first effects that I noticed were certainly change and challenge of sexual function, libido. Kind of sad but true. Not everyone's affected like this, but a lot of us are. About a week after kind of beginning to experience some of those things, I added in progesterone, which can help. It's an anti-androgen of sorts. It aids in suppression of testosterone. Um, it can help with just a fuller, more um, comparable development to women breast tissue, but I'm not a doctor. These aren't necessarily proven results. This is just what's been reported through other people's experiences. And so, largely, what I kind of used for creating a baseline was just the sum of all the other experiences people had and kind of finding somewhere in the middle. Pretty quickly after that, I'd say like at the month mark, basically a week after starting progesterone, is when I definitely started to notice kind of the what they call budding process kind of starting. Basically, my nipples itched like you wouldn't believe all the time. And really annoying, but kind of the excitement that, oh, this process is starting. Some of those secondary characteristics that, I kind of hope to achieve out of this to create a look that follows what I embody. Anyways, so about a month and a half in is when I definitely noticed like the actual growth. It was pretty obvious, and even under shirt was like, oh, those look different. And so that's kind of where they were for a little bit. I would say only up until like recently has like some of the chest tissue behind that really started to come in and start to fill out. Got a nice little A cup. It takes anywhere from like 2 to 3 years for kind of like the majority of the development, but mileage may vary, so I'm not recommending or giving advice. So then at the 3 month mark, just slightly before I had my first labs done, one of the big things that I kind of noticed was that emotionally, I didn't experience a whole lot of highs and lows. I think one of the most recognizable things was like a lot less aggressive, and I felt like I had quite a bit more control over my emotional state, which was really pleasant. Like yeah, we'll talk about emotions as a guy in a different episode because I feel like there's so much there. But definitely I appreciated kind of a little more of just like a baseline level, I guess. I didn't feel so reactive and had a little more leeway to respond versus react. Not all the time. Certainly a little bit of like up and down. But mostly emotional deadpan. When I got my first labs back, it kind of represented that in a sense. One of the things about like estrogen and testosterone is really powerful, and it really being in your system as a guy and at guy levels will cancel out most estrogen even over time of taking it. So finding an appropriate dose that you can overcome the testosterone that's naturally there as a guy to achieve a level of estrogen that's even remotely close, definitely not similar to what a woman has. It will take time, and a mixture of potentially an endocrinologist, listening to your body, and kind of watching the rest unfold. Like there's definitely not a one size fits all answer for this one. So um I got the results. They said low testosterone, which was to be expected and kind of hoped for, but also low estrogen, which was like, okay. I will say that for me to experience the physical aspects and changes, regardless of the levels kind of just looking low, um, I feel kind of grateful for, because I don't feel like everybody quite gets that experience with it. I definitely noticed that after those labs, and so I added spironolactone to basically drop the testosterone as low as possible and give more room to the estrogen to do its thing. It didn't really occur after taking the Spiro, but after I increased my dose of estrogen, here about like 2 weeks ago, I think is when I did it. So I'm currently at 6 milligram tablet and Spiro, and then I take some other things for like hair regrowth and stuff, but we'll talk about those at a later point. When I increased to this last dose of estrogen, I started to really experience that emotional bandwidth expansion that people talk about. You may experience it sooner or may have a similar experience to where I'm at, that it takes some time to kind of figure out the appropriate dose levels to kind of get to that place of like experiencing just heightened emotions, which may or may not be a good thing. Personally, I kind of appreciate having them. Strange. It's certainly a little bit of getting used to it. It's not like I didn't have emotions before, but just like the way I feel about things, how often I catch myself kind of having a feeling about things, is definitely different. So yeah, that's pretty much the HRT experience so far for me. I guess I kind of want to just express like a big part of why I did this. I definitely, going into 2023, like I kind of started making some resolutions for myself, that I really wanted to take control of my overall health and wellness, from mental health to my physical health, because I kind of realized recently, it was kind of a hard realization, that I didn't care enough about the guy I was to take care of that person. And a lot of ways I kind of suffered for it. One of the things you've probably realized by now, I don't have the greatest smile, and you'll probably not see me smile big for almost a year. I had my wisdom teeth in my early 20s growing sideways and just impact everything, and it took out a lot of my teeth smile, and it really affected my mental health, and my self-esteem like pretty badly. But I was kind of busy putting a lot of other needs in front of my own, that I just kind of kept pushing it down, and I eventually gave up on myself. in some of those regards. And this is about the most vulnerable that I could get. This is definitely one of the harder things for me to kind of admit. But I am doing something about it. And that was definitely a big piece of me kind of walking into this chapter of my life and like finally accepting who I want to be and present myself as. That like taking control of my health was really the first and foremost part of that. So dental, medical, mental, like really want to get all of that in a good place. And I think for anybody else that maybe can kind of relate, resonate to some of that, you deserve it. You definitely deserve to take care of yourself, to love yourself, and be able to show up as your best self, whatever that means, so long as it's not infringing on anybody else's ability to do so. Definitely a big part of me making these videos is hoping to impact those areas of life and bring about better understandings, and compassion. So yeah, you may see some gaps between videos that I upload. I will be going through changes, surgeries and things, so may not always be presentable to do these videos. But I will definitely try to share as much of my journey along the way. And I just really appreciate anybody who's watching this and whatever support. Kind of got to get used to this, like, click, like, subscribe, kind of, yeah. Yeah, so anyways, I guess this is about where I kind of chalk it up for this video. I hope this reaches the right person and provides some positive change. Till next time.